For me, Isabel Thorne, the heiress to the entire Thorne Industries empire, walked away from a strategic family merger that would have been the deal of the decade. The joke was this legendary ice queen of the New York business world was a complete block of wood in bed. Her technique was flawless, clinical, but there wasn't a spark of genuine passion. She moved like a beautiful doll programmed to complete a task. I thought she was just naturally aloof, until the anonymous email landed in my inbox. You're just a side character, pawn. Stop wasting your energy. She has affective insulation disorder. The only person she's hardwired to feel anything for is Julian Croft. All your pathetic efforts will only make her hate physical intimacy even more. Watching her try so hard, so clumsily, to please me, only to be met with my unresponsiveness and then fill with self-doubt. I finally gave up. I left her a note. I told her I had fallen for the untouchable goddess on a pedestal, not the desperate woman she'd become. Then I walked out without looking back. I thought that would be the wake-up call she needed. Instead, on my birthday, she appeared at the exclusive club I'd rented out for the night, radiating a fury that was almost biblical. She took down my security, wrecked the party, and dragged me back to her penthouse overlooking Central Park. Her eyes were hazy with desire, but her expression was utterly shattered. You said you liked the old me, she breathed, but the old me could never satisfy you. She straddled me on her king-size bed, clicking a pair of metal handcuffs around my wrists and securing them to the steel headboard. Tonight I took something, and I've been drinking. A cold liquid slid down my throat. Ethan, she whispered, her voice a raw, broken thing. Why don't you review my latest work? See if I've improved. The drug hit me fast. A strange, unfamiliar heat coiled in my gut and spread through my limbs, draining my strength with every passing second. Handcuffed to the bed, I was powerless, forced to watch her. The Isabel Thorne before me was a ghost of the composed, untouchable woman I knew. She wore my favorite of her dresses, a black silk slip, its lace trim tracing curves that could stop a man's heart. Her dark hair was a chaotic spill across her shoulders. The corners of her eyes flushed a deep red. She looked like a fallen angel. She reached out, her fingertips cold against my skin, but her voice was a husky, seductive purr. Ethan, why did you run? Are any of those women you party with better than me? I squeezed my eyes shut, my throat tight, refusing to look at her. She leaned in closer, her warm breath a ghost against my ear, carrying the heavy scent of whiskey and something else, something unervingly sweet. Anything they can do, I can do. Anything they can't, I can learn for you. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Her hand moved with practiced skill, unbuttoning my shirt. Her cold fingers were a torment against my feverish skin, every touch a deliberate provocation. See? My body is warm now. I'm not a block of wood anymore. I snapped my head to the side, forcing the words through gritted teeth. You're insane. Her movements froze. I felt the body pressed against mine go rigid. After a few seconds of dead silence, she gripped my chin, forcing me to meet her gaze. The light in her eyes shattered completely, leaving behind an abyss of madness and despair. Yes, I'm insane, she screamed, her voice cracking. You drove me insane. Ethan, are you happy now? A scalding tear hit my cheek, the heat of it jolting my heart. She kissed me then, a brutal, punishing kiss, as if she meant to devour me whole. This wasn't a kiss. It was a desperate, hopeless tearing of flesh. Her tears stunned me, but my rational mind was screaming. This was just the plot pushing back, the goddamn programming taking over. She moved on top of me, clumsily trying out techniques she must have learned from God knows where. Her movements were awkward but brazen. Her body trembled, whether from the drugs or from nerves, I couldn't tell. Again and again, she whispered in my ear, her voice broken. Do you like it? Ethan, please, just feel something. Please, look at me. I bit down hard, using every ounce of willpower to suppress my body's most primitive instincts. Humiliation, anger, and a pity for her I couldn't choke back twisted into a suffocating net in my chest. This damned, manipulated world. She seemed to tire, finally ceasing her efforts. She curled up beside me like an abandoned kitten, her breathing evening out. She was asleep, but her brow remained tightly furrowed, my name a constant, unconscious murmur on her lips. "Ethan, don't go." I stared at her pale profile, and for the first time, the high wall I'd built around my heart began to crack. Just then, the lock on the penthouse door clicked open. Someone was using a key. My blood ran cold. Isabel was fiercely territorial. Besides her own, there was only one other key to this penthouse. Julian Croft, the man the universe had apparently chosen for her. The story's intended hero. My body went taut, the cold metal of the handcuffs digging painfully into my wrists. A second later, the bedroom door swung open. There he stood, Julian Croft, impeccably dressed in a custom suit, the picture of refined elegance. He took in the scene, his eyes widening for a split second. Then, a flicker of unmistakable ecstasy flashed in those eyes that always held a look of gentle pity, before it was expertly replaced by manufactured shock and pain. "Isabel," he cried, rushing to the bedside, his voice dripping with anguish. "How could you be so foolish? To degrade yourself for a man like this?" He reached for her, but even in her sleep, Isabel's instincts were sharp. She swatted his hand away with a violent jerk. Her eyes flew open. The moment she saw Julian, her gaze turned as cold and sharp as a drawn blade. She instinctively moved to shield me with her own body, shifting into a defensive stance. "Who let you in? Get out!" Julian recoiled as if struck, a wounded expression painting his face. "Isabel, I'm your fiancé. I'm the one who can make you happy." He pointed a trembling finger at me, handcuffed to the bed, his voice laced with condemnation. This playboy who does nothing but party will only destroy you. Look at what you've become." Isabel let out a short, derisive laugh. "What I've become? And what gives you the right to judge me?" "Julian, drop the white knight act. Don't you make yourself sick." Julian's face paled. He took a deep, steadying breath, clearly struggling to maintain his composure. He held up his wrist, flashing an expensive watch. "Isabel, have you forgotten your father's wishes? Have you forgotten everything we've meant to each other since we were kids? I'm the one who understands you. Only I can cure you." His hypocritical performance made my stomach turn. Cure her? I suddenly remembered the email, affective insulation disorder. His idea of a cure was just a way to exploit her psychological dependence and gain complete control over her. Isabel shielded me more tightly. Her back was to me, so I couldn't see her face, but her voice was ice. "I'll deal with my own problems, and I'll protect my own man. It's not your place as an outsider to stand here and tell me how to live my life." The first crack appeared in Julian's carefully constructed facade. He stared at me, the jealousy and hatred in his eyes so intense it was almost tangible. While still facing off with Isabel, he addressed me in a condescending, pitiful tone. "Ethan, if you have a single shred of decency left, you'll leave her on your own. Do you really want to see her reputation ruined because of you?" I looked at his sickeningly self-righteous face, then at Isabel, who was ready to fight the world for me. The scales in my mind, for the first time, tilted violently. So this was the story's perfect gentleman. What a joke. Seeing that Isabel was unmoved, Julian finally dropped all pretense. He took out his phone and aimed it at us. "Isabel, if you insist on being delusional, don't blame me for forgetting our history. If this video gets out, I imagine the Thorn Industries stock price will have a very, very bad day tomorrow." For blackmail, naked and shameless. Isabel's body went rigid. She might not care about her own reputation, but Thorn Industries was her father's entire life's work. She couldn't let that be jeopardized. A triumphant smirk spread across Julian's face. "Come with me, Isabel. I'll pretend none of this ever happened." As for him, he shot me a contemptuous glance. "I'll have someone escort him out. I'll make sure he never bothers you again." Isabel bit her lips silent. I knew she was wavering. I couldn't let Julian use me to control her. I couldn't let this hypocrite win. I had to do something drastic, something that would make her give up on me for good, and get Julian out of the picture permanently. Seizing the moment, I yelled toward the doorway with all the strength I could muster. "Chloe, help me." At the door, my best friend Chloe Vance was in a standoff with Julian's men, her own bodyguards flanking her. Hearing my voice, she immediately understood. She pushed through the crowd and burst into the room. Chloe was the queen of the city's social scene, all dangerous curves and sharp wit, and my closest confidant. She saw me handcuffed to the bed, let out a theatrical gasp, and then shot me a playful wink. "Ethan, darling, I knew you couldn't live without me. There. I'm here to rescue you. You poor thing." I put on a show of struggling, reaching a hand toward her, my eyes wide with feigned desperation and relief. "Chloe, I've had enough of this psycho. You're the only one who gets me. Take me away from her." The words were a razor-sharp blade that plunged straight into Isabel's heart. Her body began to tremble violently. She turned to look back at me, her expression one of pure disbelief. In an instant, the love and possessiveness in her eyes were consumed by a crimson tide of madness as her sanity finally snapped. "Ethan, you lied to me." Her voice was a ragged, raw whisper, thick with the metallic tang of betrayal. Julian, seeing this, was overjoyed. Thinking his plan had worked, he moved to comfort Isabel. "You see, Isabel, he never loved you. He was just using you." Chloe ignored all of it, waving her bodyguards forward. "Get him out of here." The room descended into chaos. Chloe lunged toward Isabel, pretending to grab for the key in her hand. I let out a fake cry of alarm. "Be careful. Don't hurt her." My tone was filled with urgency, but to Isabel's ears, it sounded like I was worried about Chloe. It was the final straw. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the penthouse. Isabel completely lost control. A dark, destructive energy erupted from her body, blasting everyone nearby off their feet. It wasn't physical strength. It was a tempest of raw emotion, a psychic storm born from the depths of her jealousy and madness. Julian was thrown backward, his face ashen. Chloe and the bodyguards scrambled to their feet, their faces masks of terror. Every piece of glass in the room shattered instantly. Isabel ignored them all, grabbing me and pulling me back into her arms. She bound me with a new, invisible force, a restraint far stronger than any metal. She whispered against my ear, her voice thick with sobs and an unyielding ferocity. "You're mine. Don't even think about leaving me in death. No one will ever take you from me." With that, she bit down hard on my shoulder. Sharp, searing pain shot through me as blood instantly soaked my shirt. She was using pain to brand me, to mark me as hers and hers alone. The plan had worked. So why, watching her completely shatter, did my own heart ache with such unbearable pain? 5 after that night, both Julian and Chloe were thrown out. My imprisonment, however, became absolute. Isabel moved me from the master suite to a room in the deepest corner of the penthouse. It had no windows, only a single, heavy metal door. The walls were covered in strange, swirling patterns, like some kind of war designed to block out the world. I had become her bird in a gilded cage. She came to see me every day, to feed me, to give me water. She no longer made her frantic, desperate demands. She would just sit with me in silence, sometimes for an entire afternoon. But the scent of chemicals on her grew stronger. It was a cloying, bittersweet smell, a mixture of alcohol and some kind of potent drug. One day, the metal door wasn't shut properly. Through the crack, I saw her. She was outside, tipping a small, pink pill from an elegant vial and swallowing it without hesitation. A moment later, she crumpled to the floor, her body racked with violent tremors. An unnatural flush spread across her pale skin. She bit down on her own arm, muffling her screams, her nails digging so deep they drew blood. I couldn't watch anymore. I kicked the door with all my might. "Isabel, what are you doing?" She jumped, startled, and scrambled to her feet, hastily composing herself. When she entered the room moments later, her face was flushed with an alluring, feverish beauty, as if the person writhing in agony on the floor hadn't been her at all. She sat on the edge of the bed, as she always did, and tried to move closer. "Ethan, today What did you take?" I cut her off, my gaze locked on hers. Her eyes darted away, unable to meet mine. "Nothing. Just some vitamins." "Vitamins?" I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Isabel, do you take me for an idiot?" I recognized the sickeningly sweet scent. It matched the description from the email of a dangerous experimental drug. A substance that burned away one's life force for a few fleeting moments of heightened sensory experience. It could temporarily allow someone with affective insulation disorder to feel the spectrum of human emotion, but the side effects were catastrophic. Long-term use would utterly destroy the user's nervous system. Rage, tangled with an indescribable heartache, finally shattered my composure. I couldn't hold back any longer. Hijo de... Isabel, are you trying to kill yourself? She froze. It was the first time since my imprisonment that I had shown her any emotion at all, let alone such a violent one. She stared at me, her eyes slowly turning red. Then she smiled, a smile more painful than any tears. You're worried about me? Ethan, you're finally looking at me. She threw herself at me, heedless of anything else, and crashed her lips against mine. The kiss was scorching with the drug's fire and the silent scream of her own private hell. As long as it makes you feel something for me. Her voice was a ruin, laced with the finality of a desperate gamble. Even if it's just for a moment, I die for it. I die happy. My entire body went rigid. The wall I had built inside my mind, a wall made of words like plot, programming, and side character, came crashing down. This wasn't some bullshit programming. This was a woman loving me with her very life. For the first time, I didn't push her away. Instead, awkwardly, clumsily, I kissed her back. Feeling my response, she shuddered from head to toe and then clung to me even tighter, as if trying to merge our very bones. The kiss was no longer a test or an act of seduction, but a raw, unbridled explosion of joy and relief. But just as we were lost in the moment, the penthouse door was blasted off its hinges by an immense external force. The wail of sirens, shouts, and the chaotic thud of combat boots filled the space. A SWAT team, armed and in full tactical gear, stormed the apartment. Leading them was Julian Croft. He'd traded his designer suit for a simple jacket, his face a mask of righteous urgency. Officers, this is it. She's holding my friend hostage. He's been illegally detained. Behind him were several men in suits, members of the Thorn Industries Board. One of them, a man with silver hair, was trembling with rage as he took in the scene. This is an outrage, an absolute outrage. Isabel, you have disappointed us beyond measure. Isabel shot up from the bed, placing herself in front of me as the blood drained from her face. She never imagined Julian would escalate things this far, creating a crisis with no easy way out. Illegal detainment. If that charge stuck, she wouldn't just be ruined, she could face serious prison time. Julian strode up to her, putting on his pathetic savior act again. Isabel, don't be afraid. I'm here to save you. Just come with me, admit he manipulated you, and I'll handle everything. The look he gave me was one of triumphant, sneering contempt. It screamed, see? Trash like you never stood a chance against me. Isabel's voice was arctic. Julian, you're despicable. For you, I'd do anything, he replied, his voice oozing with false sincerity. He turned to the police. Officers, the victim is on the bed. He's been drugged and handcuffed. Please rescue him. Two officers moved forward, keys in hand, ready to unlock my cuffs. I couldn't let them. The second I was rescued, Isabel was finished. I looked at Julian's smug face, then at Isabel's panicked one, and a desperate, crazy idea took root in my mind. Just as the officers reached the bed, I gathered every last bit of my strength and slammed my cuffed hand straight into my own forehead. Thwack! A sickening, dull thud echoed in the room. The hard metal edge of the handcuffs split my skin, and a warm trail of blood streamed down my face. Everyone froze, stunned by my sudden act of self-harm. Ignoring the blinding pain, I looked at the officers and at Julian and twisted my lips into a grin. Who said anything about being detained? My voice wasn't loud, but in the dead silent room, every word landed like a hammer blow. We were just in the middle of a private game. Officers, you broke into a private residence and interrupted us. I have to ask, how are we going to settle that bill? The color drained from Julian's face. He never imagined that I, the victim, would turn on him. Isabel was just as stunned. She stared at the blood on my forehead, and the wild, obsessive look in her eyes slowly gave way to a much deeper emotion. Heartache. You fool, she whispered. I ignored her, keeping my focus on the bewildered officers. I didn't call you. I haven't been harmed in any way. As for Mr. Croft here, I shifted my gaze to Julian. He has repeatedly broken into our home, harassed my partner, and maliciously filed a false police report, wasting city resources. Isn't that a crime? The officers exchanged uncertain glances. Julian pointed at me, sputtering with rage. You're lying. She must have threatened you. I laughed. Threaten me? Ms. Thorne is a billionaire. She's beautiful, and she spoils me rotten. She's too busy loving me to threaten me. Mr. Croft, is it possible that after Ms. Thorne rejected your advances, you became bitter and decided to retaliate? Because this behavior, it's really beneath you. Every word was a slap across Julian's face. His perpetually composed expression finally twisted into a mask of pure fury. You just wait. He spat the threat, then turned and left in a hurry, the humiliated board members trailing behind him. His meticulously planned, heroic rescue had devolved into a pathetic, laughable farce. Once the police confirmed I wasn't being held against my will, they quickly departed. The heavy metal door swung shut, and the room was once again plunged into silence. It was just me and Isabel. She stood by the bed, staring at me, silent tears tracing paths down her cheeks like falling pearls. She didn't speak, just walked over, produced a key, and unlocked the handcuffs from my wrists. A deep, red circle of raw, broken skin marked where the metal had been. She retrieved a first aid kit and gently began cleaning the cuts on my forehead and wrists with an antiseptic wipe. Her touch was feather-light, impossibly gentle, as if she were handling a priceless artifact. The sting of the antiseptic made me flinch. Her hand immediately stilled. She looked up, her red-rimmed eyes filled with guilt and pain. I'm sorry. Did I hurt you? Looking at her like this, a heavy, suffocating feeling settled in my chest. Isabel, I began, my voice hoarse. She flinched, her eyes meeting mine. What is it you really want? To lock me in here? To use drugs and chains to force me to stay with you? Is it your idea of love? She bit her lip, saying nothing, the tears falling faster. You think this will make me love you? I pressed on, using the cruelest words I could find. It just makes me sick. Look at you. You're acting like a psycho, a freak. There's nothing left of the powerful woman you're supposed to be. The cotton swab fell from her fingers. She swayed on her feet, looking as though a strong gust of wind could shatter her into a million pieces. I expected her to break down, to fly into another rage. But she didn't. She simply raised a hand and, with ice-cold fingertips, gently traced the lines of my face, my brows, my eyes. Ethan, she said, her voice as soft as the wind, I know you don't really want to leave. A jolt went through me. The note you left. I've read it 100 times. You said you loved the cold goddess I used to be, not the needy woman I've become. But I know you were lying. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against mine, another hot tear splashing onto my skin. You were just trying to force me to be rational, to push me into letting you go. You think I'm being controlled by some programming. You're trying to save me, aren't you? My mind went completely blank. How? How could she know? She pulled back and looked at my shocked expression, a sad, all-knowing smile gracing her lips. I got the email the day after you left. Congratulations, host. You have successfully triggered the side character's guilt complex, prompting his voluntary withdrawal. Please proceed to embrace the male lead, Julian Croft, to complete the primary storyline. She recited the words in a flat, robotic tone, mimicking the email. With every word, her face grew paler. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. The blood in my veins turned to ice. So from the very beginning, you? Yes, she cut me off, her voice tinged with self-mockery. From the very beginning, I knew we were living in a story someone else wrote. I know you're the side character. Julian is the male lead, and I'm the female lead with no free will. I tried to fight it, but I couldn't. My body, my emotions, none of them were my own. Whenever Julian showed up, I couldn't stop myself from wanting to be near him. Whenever you were kind to me, I couldn't suppress the wave of revulsion that followed. It was a rejection that came from the depths of my soul. I couldn't control it. She looked at me, her eyes an ocean of pain. Ethan, do you think I'm tainted? Tainted? No. All I felt was a sense of cosmic absurdity and a tidal wave of protectiveness and pain for her. It turned out I was never the only one suffering. While I was feeling frustrated and hopeless over her coldness, she was in agony over her own body's betrayal. We were two puppets on a string, forced to perform a tragic comedy for some invisible system. I reached out and wiped the tears from her face. "No, you're not tainted. This world is." She stared, stunned, as if she never expected me to say that. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. It was the first time I had ever voluntarily embraced her. She felt so fragile, so thin, like she could shatter at any moment. "I'm sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm sorry that when you were at your lowest, I pushed you away in the cruelest way possible. I'm sorry I misunderstood you and left you to bear all of this alone." She was stiff in my arms at first, then slowly she began to relax until finally she broke down completely, sobbing without restraint. She cried out all the fear, the despair, and the injustice of the past months. Her cries went from muffled gasps to heartbreaking wails before slowly quieting. After a long time, she pulled back, her eyes swollen. "Then why?" she asked, her voice thick. "Why did you come back? Why did you put on that act to provoke me?" A bitter smile touched my lips. "Because I figured something out." I looked her directly in the eyes, speaking each word with absolute certainty. "The programming, it can be broken. Just now, when Julian was threatening you, your first instinct was to protect me, not to give in to him. When the police were about to take me away, my first instinct was to hurt myself just to get you out of it. The system wants us to reject each other, but our instincts, our real selves, keep choosing each other." And I paused, raising a hand to her face. "When you took that drug from me, I knew." Isabel Thorne's love for Ethan Shaw is real, and that love is strong enough to fight any bullshit programming they throw at us. She stared at me, the light slowly returning to her eyes. It was the brilliant, dazzling light of survival, of finding something you thought was lost forever. She didn't say a word. She just leaned in and kissed me, a deliberate, precious kiss. There was no testing in it, no seduction, no madness or obsession. Just pure, unconditional love. The moment our lips met, a tremor ran through her body. A warm, pure energy flowed from my lips to hers, spreading through her entire being. Her eyes widened in disbelief as her perpetually cold body began to grow warm. A genuine, emotional blush colored her cheeks. I can feel it," she stammered, her voice trembling and thick with tears. "Ethan, I can't feel you. It's not the drugs. It's not the alcohol. It's you." I finally understood. There was no affective insulation disorder, no programming that could only be unlocked by the male lead. The key to her heart was never a specific person. It was a singular, unconditional love she was willing to fight and die for. I kissed her back, my own voice hoarse with elation. I felt it, too. I always have. I was just a fool, blinded by the so-called programming. In that instant of perfect connection, a shrill alarm blared in my mind. "Warning! Warning! Severe plot deviation. Female lead's emotional logic compromised. System initiating forced correction. Correction failed. Timeline collapse imminent." I ignored the screeching of the machine and just held the woman in my arms tighter. To hell with the timeline. From now on, she was my entire world. Night after that night, everything changed. Isabel no longer needed drugs or alcohol to function. She came alive. She would laugh, she would tease, and she would blush at a simple compliment, just like any other woman in love. And I was no longer the puppet trapped by a side character's fate. Together, we launched our counterattack against the plot. First on the list, Julian Croft. I compiled everything I'd learned from the emails and the strange pop-up comments that had appeared in my vision, all of Julian's dirty secrets, into a detailed dossier and gave it to Isabel. How he used illegal tactics to absorb his competitors. How he blackmailed and threatened his way into lucrative contracts, driving one family to ruin. And, of course, his sordid, hidden private life. Isabel's face grew colder with every page she turned. I was so blind. Without a moment's hesitation, she mobilized the full power of Thorne Industries. The dossier, along with irrefutable evidence, was anonymously delivered to the SEC and the District Attorney's Office. Simultaneously, She had her media subsidiaries begin leaking whispers and insider tips about the Croft Corporation's unstable financials and Julian's own moral failings. It was all it took to start an avalanche. The Croft Corporation's stock plummeted. Old rivals, smelling blood in the water, moved in for the kill. The wolves began to circle. In less than 2 weeks, Julian Croft, the celebrated golden boy of the business world, became a social and financial pariah. He was indicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. The Croft family declared bankruptcy, their name vanishing from the city's elite circles overnight. The moment I saw the news, the cold, mechanical voice that had haunted me for so long spoke one last time. This time, however, it sounded different. It was frayed, broken, script destroyed, timeline reconstruction failed. Warning, system detachment imminent. The voice faded, getting quieter and quieter until it was gone for good. I let out a long, slow breath. A mountain of weight I didn't even realize I was carrying had been lifted from my shoulders. My world was finally quiet. No more pop-up comments, no more plot, no more programming. Just me and the woman I loved. Isabel wrapped her arms around me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" I turned in her arms and held her close. "I'm thinking that our new life is about to begin." She smiled, her eyes as bright as a starry night. Yeah, our new life, however, began with its greatest challenge yet. Isabel's father, Marcus Thorne, chairman of the board, showed up at our door. He stood in the hallway flanked by 4 imposing bodyguards, his face as dark as a thundercloud. "Isabel, get out here now," he roared, his voice powerful enough to shake the entire floor. Isabel's face went pale, and her hand instinctively tightened around mine. I gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. It was time. I took her hand, opened the door, and came face to face with the titan of industry who held half the city's economy in his grasp. "Mr. Thorne." "Hello." Marcus Thorne didn't even glance at me. His eyes, burning with a furious, disappointed fire, were locked on his daughter. "So you still remember you have a father?" he bellowed. "To cause a scandal this huge, to ruin the Croft merger, to drag the Thorne family name through the mud. All for this nobody. You will end this now, and you will come home with me." Isabel straightened her back, meeting her father's gaze head-on. "Dad, I'm not going back. I make my own decisions now, and I decide who I want to be with." Marcus Thorne's lips trembled with rage. You've really grown wings, haven't you?" He raised his hand, moving to strike her across the face. I moved faster. I stepped in front of Isabel, taking the full force of the blow myself. A sharp, stinging pain exploded across my cheek. My entire face went numb. Isabel cried out and tried to rush to my side, but I held her back. I couldn't back down. This was a test I had to pass. I looked the enraged Marcus Thorne straight in the eye, my voice quiet but firm. "Mr. Thorne, if you want to hit me, that's fine. But you will not touch her." He froze, clearly not expecting me to take the hit, let alone talk back. He narrowed his eyes, reassessing the kept boy who had so thoroughly bewitched his daughter. "And who do you think you are to make demands of me?" he sneered, jabbing a finger in my direction. "You're a gold digger, living off my daughter's money. Besides that pretty face, what do you have to offer her? How could you possibly give her the life she deserves, with that pathetic little startup of yours that's about to go under?" The words were sharp, cruel, and designed to gut me. The old me might have been angry, might have felt the sting of shame, but now I was calm. I knew he was only seeing the surface. I offered a small, steady smile. "Mr. Thorne, you're not wrong. Right now, I don't have much to my name, but I give you my word. Within 3 years, I will build an empire to rival Thorne Industries, and I will make Isabel the happiest woman in the world." Marcus Thorne looked at me as if I just told him I could fly. You must be dreaming." "Dad," Isabel finally broke in. "You have no idea who he is. It was Ethan who found all the evidence on Julian. He was the one who brought down their entire company. And he's the one who cured me." Her father stared at her, utterly shocked. "You're cured?" He knew all about her affective insulation disorder. He had spent a fortune on specialists from around the world, all to no avail. It was the primary reason he'd been so insistent on the merger with the Crofts. A psychologist had suggested that being with someone from her childhood might be the only way to unlock her emotions. Isabel nodded firmly. She stepped to my side, took my hand, and laced her fingers through mine. Then, right there in front of her furious father and his team of bodyguards, she stood on her toes and pressed a soft, gentle kiss to my cheek. Her face was flushed with a healthy, happy, rosy color. It was the unmistakable glow of a woman in love, something no drug or performance could ever fake. Marcus Thorne stared at the genuine, heartfelt smile on his daughter's face, a smile he hadn't seen in years. His expression was a complex mixture of emotions. He was silent for a long time, so long I thought he might explode. Finally, he just let out a tired sigh. "Fine, I suppose you're your own woman now." He turned to leave, waving a dismissive hand at his bodyguards. "Let's go." At the doorway, he paused and looked back at me, his gaze as sharp as a scalpel. "Kid, I'm giving you 3 years. If, in 3 years, you haven't delivered on your promise, or if you ever cause her a moment of pain, I swear to you, there will be nowhere on earth you can hide from me." Was that acceptance? Isabel and I locked eyes, a shared, ecstatic joy passing between us. After the final boss had been vanquished, we were left alone in the apartment. Isabel let out a whoop of joy and leaped into my arms, clinging to me like a koala. "Ethan, you were amazing." I spun her around, laughing. "Of course I was. Have I ever let you down?" She planted a hard, noisy kiss on my cheek. "That's your reward." "Not enough," I murmured, tilting her chin up and capturing her lips with mine. "That's not nearly enough of a reward." Outside, the setting sun painted the city in hues of warm, brilliant gold. Our war was over, and our life, our real life, was just beginning. 11 life after our engagement was sweeter than I ever could have imagined. Isabel had completely let go of her old self. It was as if she was determined to make up for the 2 years of cold, emotionless distance between us. She no longer needed any medication, yet she was more passionate and full of life than ever. She would wander around the apartment in the morning sunlight wearing nothing but one of my dress shirts, making breakfast for me barefoot in the kitchen. At night, under the moonlight, she would turn into an insatiable kitten, whispering in my ear again and again, asking if I loved her. And every single time, I would answer without hesitation. "Ido, only you." Sometimes I'd tease her. "Honey, your technique's getting a little rusty. Do we need to put on a movie for you to study up?" She would turn beet red and bury her face in my chest, playfully swatting at me. "No, you're all the teacher I need." When Chloe came to visit, she would roll her eyes at our constant affection. "Honestly, Ethan, get a room. Can you tone it down a little?" "Ide pui izabaya cruze, smirking." "Can't help it. My wife is just too crazy about me." Isabel would hide her face in my shoulder and mutter, "No, I'm not." Chloe would just shake her head and sigh. It's true what they say. There really is a lid for every pot. Who would have thought the great ice queen of New York would be so completely wrapped around your finger? She leaned in closer, whispering conspiratorially, "Hey, for real, that's time we pulled back at the penthouse. I still have nightmares about it." The look on her face. I honestly thought she was going to kill us all. I smiled, looking down at the woman nestled in my arms. I knew she wouldn't. She couldn't bear to. After graduation, I didn't join Thorne Industries. Instead, I used the seed money Marcus Thorne gave me as a wedding gift, and with my dad, rebuilt my family's small company from the ground up. Isabel turned down offers from every Ivy League PhD program to stay and become my company's CTO. Our life was simple, but it was filled with a quiet, everyday kind of happiness. Everything had fallen into place, so perfectly it almost felt like a dream. A year later, Isabel and I got married. The ceremony was on a private beach, grand and breathtakingly romantic. Marcus Thorne, his face a mixture of pride and reluctance, walked his precious daughter down the aisle and placed her hand in mine. The man who once looked at me with nothing but disdain now regarded me with something approaching respect. "Kid, she's all yours now. If you ever dare to hurt her." I cut him off with a smile. "Dad, don't worry. I'll spend the rest of my life spoiling her."